I'm gonna teach you how to dance, 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 like no one ever taught you how to dance, dance, dance. Tonight I'm gonna teach you how to gather up your thoughts and let them go, go, go. You gotta get
Kaiser Chiefs are an indie rock band from Leeds in Yorkshire, which is in England. They were formed as Runston Parva in 1996. They renamed themselves to Parva in the year 2000, and as Parva released one album in the year 2003, but also in that year they renamed themselves to Kaiser Chiefs. Since then, they've had one change of member and they have released 8 albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So this is a new release review. I do these occasionally. I seem to have done a few of them recently. And this is obviously a release of the Kaiser Chiefs album, Easy Eighth album, which came out on Friday, which was the 1st of March. As I'm recording this, this is Sunday, which is the 3rd of March. Back in the day there. So we're like 2 days old. And most of the reviews on this channel are not new release reviews. They're of uh, I'm working my way through a list, which is a list purportedly of the 3,000 greatest albums of all time, according to a website called Acclaim Music. But they haven't just made that up; they've done that by it's amalgamated critic lists. So it's a bit like a wider ranging version of Metacritic, but it goes back in time earlier than Metacritic does. I'm enjoying my list and I'm doing my reviews there, and I have gone. I'm approaching 700 now in there. However, I do occasionally step off that list, and this is one of those occasions. So, yeah, this is a new album by Kaiser Chiefs. So I would describe this as pop rock, maybe power pop. I'm not sure I could tell if there's a difference between those two terms. I prefer the term pop rock because I think I understand it. And I actually listened to this 3 times. So normally when I do a review, I'll listen twice to an album. Occasionally I'll listen more than that. Very occasionally I'll listen once for particular reasons. But this one I listened 3 times. The reason for this is because on my first listen, I didn't like it. And on my second listen, I liked it more. So I thought maybe I should have a third listen to see if it's a grower. Because if I liked it even more again, then that'd be an important thing to say. I have to say also that my daughter, who's 12, listened for about 20 seconds to this and declared that she hated it. Um, so yeah, I did do better than my first listen, but you know, bear with me, we'll get there. So most of this, I would say, is very poppy, and sometimes it sounds more pop than rock. Uh, Sometimes it sounds kind of like 80s pop rock. There's tracks in which where it sounds a bit kind of more synthy and certainly drum machiney sounds going on. There were, however, 2 tracks that stood out for me as being, for me, the best tracks on the album. So there's Learn to Dance, which apparently has been released as a single and has been around for well, a couple of years even. And that's kind of funk rock, and it reminded me of something. Now, having found out that it's been around for a little while, it's possible that it reminds me of itself. But it reminds me of other stuff in kind of, for some reason, I keep coming back in my head to Daft Punk, but I don't think there's a Daft Punk track that's like this, but there are others. So it's produced by Nile Rodgers, who was famous for doing stuff with Sheep. So it's no surprise that it's uh, kind of got this funky edge to it. The other one that stuck out to me, excuse me, was the track "Reasons to Stay Alive," which has got a chuggy 6/8 rock feel to it. So this reminded me of several other tracks. So it reminded me of "Spirit in the Sky" by Dead or Alive, which is a cover of Norman Greenbaum's song from the 60s. It reminded me of the start of "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" by Shania Twain, which is a bit of a stretch. And actually, it reminded me of a song called "Spread Your Love Like a Fever" by Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. And the point of this is this kind of bassy, slightly distorted bass going dum 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 is a very distinctive but recognizable sound. And there are other tracks around out there in the music verse that have this kind of sound. On the other hand, I think probably the worst song for me on the album was a song called "Sentimental Love Song." Um, there's a track called the very last track on the album called "The Lads," which is a bit more rock. Not, it's just kind of less kind of produced sound, less kind of synthetic sounding. But it still kind of sounds poppy, but it's kind of a sing along pub rock kind of thing. Um, the Job Centre Shuffle possibly has the best lyrics on it. There are occasional swear words in there, which is kind of like a bit of a kind of mechanical, funky thing with some, a bit like some Talking Heads stuff, actually. I'm referring to a lots of other stuff. Sorry about that. I tried to avoid that mostly. Um, so I expected this album to be more rocky, and I think my knowledge of Kaiser Chiefs isn't deep or huge, but from the stuff that I know of theirs in the past, I found this to be more poppy than I expected. I found it to be very commercial, and also as an album, it's very short. It's less than half an hour long, which felt odd to me. It has a feeling of, so the thing that really put me off on the first listen and kind of pulled it back a bit on the other two listens, but not a huge amount, is that it feels quite superficial. It feels shallow. And it feels a bit like, to me, again, I'm going to refer to something else, but the band The Killers had a track called Human, which was a real kind of dance pop thing, which I hated. And that's not why I hate this album. And I don't. Um, but the Killers in the past, previous to that, had been what I would have thought of as a decent rock band, and then they suddenly went very radio friendly with Human, and the song was played to death on the radio, and I got totally sick of it. So there are definitely tracks here that are very radio friendly. There's some dance focused stuff here. There is some decent grooves. There's some flashes of interesting lyrics that just kind of occasionally there's a bit of a turn of phrase that I thought, oh, that's interesting. But overall, I felt like it had the depth of a saucer. Um, and I felt like the name of the album doesn't help. Because again, my first listen to, I felt like to some extent phoned it in. It feels better. So my first listen, which is the one that I really hated, I listened on a small Bluetooth speaker about this big, and second listen was on headphones, which has got much better music reproduction. The third listen was in my car, which has not quite as good as the headphones, but a decent sound. It sounds better when you've got more depth. It sounds better when you've got more stereo separation. The production on the album is good and strong, but the kind of the quality of the song storytelling stuff I felt was not strong. Yeah, okay. So it felt a bit contractual obligation-y, especially with it being so short. So I've got mixed feelings. It grew on me a bit after the first listen, but not enough. And so I wasn't hugely impressed with this album. So there are occasional songs, the two ones I said that stick out that are quite kind of dancey. So that's what I think of this album. Obviously, it's very new out, but I'd love to know what you think of this album, so please do leave a comment. And that's it from me for now.
You give me one good reason to love you, I'll give you plenty more. I should be gone.